I'm going to go ahead and deal with this particular question here for a moment because it seems like that every time I open up my mouth and say something, I stimulate a lot of energy from people who simply just do not want to get clear in any matter of their own and do their own research. Now, I realize, before I tackle this question right here, let me try to help our minds here for a moment, okay? I understand that we live in a world that when people ask questions, 90% of them are for contentious sake. And they're not asking questions because they want to know the truth. When an American, when somebody in this country asks a question, they ask a question because they want the people who they are asking the questions of to confirm what they have already adopted or believe to be the truth within themselves. You have to understand, we live in a society where people, they simply do not care about facts. Facts are totally irrelevant in the time that we're living in. They function after opinions, feelings, emotions. You can watch it all the time. You can look at these talk shows out here. You can get what they call somebody on the show. They can start asking questions. The people can present facts and give them the truth. But because the people do not like facts and they do not like truth, they end up contending. But if you watch their contention is all emotional based. And yet and still, these same hypocrites will turn around and say, all we want is the truth. All we want to do is know the truth. No. You are deceived. You want to know your truth. You want to know what you have already defined as far as truth goes. And when you have a people functioning like that, it's no wonder that the people in America act like a bunch of stark-raving maniacs, because that's a fact. Now, I'm going to present some truth here again. But let's get a little bit educated here for a second, okay? When I present this truth, rather than jumping to conclusions like Americans do, how about you go look up the word, some of the words I'm going to use, do your own study, your own independent research, and I'm telling you, in everything you deal with out there today, you're gonna find something to confirm exactly what you want. Depends on what area you're looking in. But even at that, you have to understand that you need to weigh the evidence. Weigh the evidence. All right? And get to the source of truth. All right? And that's just that simple. So anyway, here we go. The question is Pastor Dow, where did marriage license start? Now, number one, I'm gonna, I kind of do this in a preaching and teaching way or what? Because first of all, number one, I know you don't care because it's not going to stop many of you from running to the state and getting licensed. But you do know this, that if you go out and get a state marriage license, you are entering into a third-party general partnership contractual agreement. You are entering into a polygamous relationship with the state or whatever state you're into, whatever state you're from. That's what you're doing. And you need to know that. Now, and you also need to know that if you go and you obtain a state marriage license, that the terms and the conditions of that contract is not disclosed to you, but yet it is the most powerful and binding contract that you could ever make in your life. Because remember how that our government always talk about it's about the children. To them, it's all about the children. It's all about the children. And so since you don't know too much about all that and stuff, let's go ahead and get to the answer to the question. All right, first of all, number one, there was no such thing as licenses until after the Civil War, marriage license. And the reason why that they started marriage license is because they wanted to, the white men, slave owners, they want, especially here in the South, they wanted to prevent what they call miscegenation. They wanted to prevent the intermingling and the mixing of blacks and whites. See, it was fine as long as the white slave owners was raping and going out to the slave camp and having sex with all these having sex with all these black women and making all these mulattoes babies and all these mixed breeds. That was fine and good. Nobody said nothing about that. But as soon as the white woman wanted to marry a black man, that's when they had problems. So what did the states or what did the government do? Well, they made a license. And it started off regulating the marriage against black man cannot marry a white woman. That's where it started from. Later on, as time began to go, like all laws, they end up getting lax. There was no marriage license, no recorded marriage license before the Civil War. The government found out they could make a lot of money on doing these marriage licenses. So you know what they did? They made a requirement for everybody. And since now we're living in this Alexandria the Greek society, Alexander the Greek, even though he didn't get what he wanted all the way back then in history, boy, his sentiments have come to pass today because these Greeks and Romans are making sure they're carrying out his wishes. So what they've done is they found out they could make a lot of money in license. And so they figured they'll license everything. They'll license you for carrying guns. They'll license you for driving a vehicle. You can tell them you're traveling, but they're going to tell you you're driving. So they license you. They have they license you for marriage. Everything is license. And my personal thing is that I don't recommend nobody to go out here and bow down and squabble to the government to obtain any of their license. Now, if you enter into a contract with the government, you know what you're getting ready to get into before you do it. And of course, they have things that you can protect yourself and how you sign things, even though the UCC really don't mean nothing nowadays. But you can do what you call a restricted signature in order, because there's a lot of things that the government is just not honest with you at all, period. And they'll use lies, deceit, coercion, manipulation to try to get you to conform to them. Because remember, the government can't produce anything; it can only take, and that's all they're doing to you. They're just taking. And so these license, you don't understand that if you go out and you get a state marriage license, that you basically become. I'm gonna make it simple terms. You don't own your children. Your children do not belong to you. And if you go out and get a birth certificate, after you had a marriage license and stuff, you're giving the state 2/3 controlling interest over the fruit of you and your wife, your child. You need to know that. They're not going to tell you that, but you need to know that because your preachers, your teachers, they ain't going to tell you this. The government ain't going to tell you this because they want to continue to keep using control. That's why the Department of Human Services and DHS, DCS, all these other alphabet suits, they have so much authority and power because you go and freely pay for these licenses and you submit to it without knowledge. You do it because of the cattle mentality. Whatever you see the herd doing, you go do the same thing yourself without question. We've all have. But if you want to remain free and independent of their regulation and the scope of their judgments and stuff, you don't need no marriage license. All you need is a contract, a lifetime commitment between you and that party, invoking Yahweh's name. That's how you do it. And you get to keep the fruit of your labors. And they cannot regulate that which they do not license. I know it's a new concept. I don't feel like I'm married. Wait. You mean tell me you don't feel like you're married unless you get approval from the state? What did Abraham do? What did Moses do? What did David do? What did all these people do before a license came into play? How did all these people get here? I mean, what in the world is going on? I know many of you don't like my answer. That's all right. It makes no difference to me, but you need to know that license didn't come into effect and come into play until after the Civil War. And mainly because they wanted to prevent miscegenation. You just heard the truth. Now, understand this. When you mamas and daddies, you send your children to public school, because the system has, you understand, the system believes that they're children, so they're going to train and teach them too. And you go up there, kick, fight, and carry on, and you watch all these people, because now the DHS got a new law that they implemented sometime in November last year, that they would no longer be taking children. How you know this, Pastor? Because we're informed. We study these things because they're personal to us. We don't want to turn around and give our children over to Moloch. We don't want to do that. Now, if it makes you happy, you want to do it, you be at peace. But remember, you came to this channel to hear the truth. You didn't come to this channel to hear a lie. And if you want to hear a lie, you go to everybody else's channel and you go listen to what other people say who are uninformed and don't know nothing. But you come over here, this is called the University of the Painful Truth. And I will say what Galatians 4 says, have I become your enemy because I tell you the truth? And the truth is, I make a lot of enemies by telling the truth, but my shoulders are broad. I embrace it, and I love it, and it inspires me. The more enemies I got, the harder I drive, and I hit back like a 2-ton heavy stick.